to apologize because my show is popular, because I'm entertaining, because I talk directly to people like a blue-collar person, because that's who I am. You know, I grew up the youngest of 12 kids. I have one little sister. I drank powdered milk till I was in fucking 5th grade. I was at Mason for 15 years.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Years, yeah, from the time I was 16 until the time I was 30. I don't know, what is that, 14? I don't know, I'm not a math surgeon, but whatever that is, I fucking worked with my hands, did brickwork, and so I know, and I know, and that's what it is. And so there's a lot of people, they're exposing themselves right now, Niko. I don't have to lift a finger. They're exposing themselves. They're letting their ego and their personal animus for me, and they're just like, you know, it's so funny. Cenk Uygur has a biopic called Mad as Hell about him. That's where I learned how to broadcast like this. If you go watch my specials, I'm very nice, I'm very charming, I'm very smiley, and I'm still getting, because I had to do that. I had to go make fun of George Bush in Houston and in Dallas and in Oklahoma City, right? So I had to figure out how to make people laugh at themselves. So I couldn't come fucking scream at them. So what I did was I used humor, and I did it so well, I got a Comedy Central Hour special that won awards doing it, right? So then I went to work with Cenk Uygur, and Cenk Uygur screams like a fucking maniac, and I loved it. I was like, you can do that? You can scream like a fucking maniac? And yes, you can. And people were, and so when I started to do it, people started to come up to me and say, "You keep me sane." And
especially at the end of 2016. That's when I first actually saw you, because when everybody at CYT took the route of, well, we have to push Hillary now, right? That's without question. And you were like, fuck no, what the hell? And then you just started going off, because it was insanity. What we were seeing happening in real time was everybody was going insane and trying to make the sane people seem like we were the crazy ones.
That's right. And so when people would, so after about the 3,000th person told me that I kept them sane, I realized this was a real thing, and what they meant was I was expressing outwardly what they felt inwardly, and because they saw me having the same emotion outwardly that they had inwardly, it made them feel like I'm not nuts. I'm not the only one. You know, and let's remember, that's the aim of mass media, to make you think you're the only one thinking what you're thinking. Chomsky taught us that in Manufacturing Consent. That's what they want you to think. They want you to think you're the only one having that thought. But you're not. I'm connecting with people who realize there's millions of us who have this thought right now, especially the 15 million people who just lost their health care because they're unemployed right now. Everybody's having this thought right now, and they don't want you to know that. And that's why there's no mainstream news organization that's even covering this fucking story, Niko. And the only one that did was The Intercept, and they did a sweetheart interview with fucking AOC, didn't ask one goddamn follow-up question. You call that fucking journalism? It isn't. They russiagated like fucking maniacs. They're all McCarthy smearing motherfuckers. They just censored Glenn Greenwald with a straight face, and now they do a fucking sweetheart interview.
That they intercepted you? Is that what you're saying? It seems to be their job now, is to intercept the progressive movement, any progress we make. Now, I do want to go back to
Got one follow-up question. Like, if
no.
they weren't aware of it, hey, just take a peek on Twitter. There's a million arguments that you should be asking fucking her. Hey, why don't you go to Justin Jackson's Twitter feed and ask her one of those questions? Not one fucking question. And those people call themselves journalists? They're fucking jokes. I can outdo a drunk and high, and I do.
I mean, yeah, you do. And it wouldn't be that difficult to do either. I'm pretty sure there's some people on the street who could do a better job than what they do. I want to go to the criticisms, because a lot of people are saying you're going to risk the speakership and give it to a Republican, and you're going to risk hurting the Democratic Party, and you're going to risk X, Y, and Z. So can you go ahead and debunk some of those criticisms that we have seen coming from the left?
Yeah, well, one of the criticisms of me is I don't know how government works, and then a bunch of eggheads went around spreading false information about how the speaker gets elected. I'm the only one who covered that correctly. That's not what happens. If you withhold your vote for Nancy Pelosi and she doesn't get enough votes to become speaker, Kevin McCarthy does not become speaker. It goes back to the caucus, and they have to come up with another person to put up. You have to get a majority of the votes to become speaker. You just don't automatically. It's not whoever gets the most votes. You have to get the majority of the people present. So if they withhold their votes, there's not a chance that Kevin McCarthy can get that. So they'd have to go back and fight. So that's a bullshit argument. This is not about. And when this was first covered on the Young Turks, that's what they said, but that's not what it is. They've since corrected that, I'm pretty sure. I think they've corrected.
I would hope so.
So that's good.
But
Ed Uger was one of the first ones to come out and support this idea. And then they put it to a vote to their own viewers, and their own viewers overwhelmingly came down on the side of Jimmy Dore's idea. So I just want to thank Anna Kasparian and Jank for doing that, because that was a big help to the hashtag Force the Vote. And they got a big megaphone, so I'm glad they used it in the right way and helped push this right now, because if not now, when? If not here, where? If not me, who?
I agree with that. And I will give them credit, although I'm not sure that ended exactly how they were expecting it to. But, what it did show, in my opinion, because obviously everybody who's a fan of your show understands that TYT's audience is not a fan of you personally because of everything that's going on. Mostly because you're honest.
Right? But you're fucking participating, fucking McCarthy smearers. That's why the people who are comfortable with Russiagate and McCarthy smearing don't like me. I get that.
But for them to overwhelmingly agree with your strategy was very telling. And for them to agree with it, and of course, us on the populist left agree with it. And now we're seeing, in my opinion, like I said, it's just everybody on Twitter is calling it the great unmasking, because the people that you and I and others have been saying, this is exactly who they are. This isn't new. This is who they've been. We've been telling you, but they can always deflect. They can use Pelosi, they could use Trump, they could hide behind Bernie, they could hide behind all these publications, Jacobin before they got exposed, Intercept before they got exposed. Now you can't hide behind anybody. It's policy and principles, and if you can't fight for policy on principle, then nobody wants to hear what you have to say, and you're going to be unmatched. I think that's what we're seeing happening right now.
That the irony of this pandemic is it is the great unmasking, and it is happening. And I don't even have to list the figure. All I had to do was get social media support and grassroots support for hashtag Force the Vote. That's all I had to do. I did that, and these people couldn't wait to show their ass. They couldn't fucking wait to reveal that they are neo-progressives. They're not. They're progressives in name only. They're fucking phonies. And by the way, I welcome them onto hashtag Force the Vote. Anytime they want to drop their pettiness and join onto this moment, they're welcome. All right? So that's fantastic. Okay?
You have a track record of bringing everybody and anybody on your show. It's actually one of the reasons that I've always been like, if anybody's ever wanted to debate me, small channel, big channel, whatever, I've never been afraid to bring anybody on, even if they disagree with me, because if you're fighting if you're using the right arguments on their merits, then there should be no reason you're scared to talk to anybody. And yet, it seems like people, once again, only want you on their show whenever they can try to use your brand to attack you and build, like I'm not going to say the name, but a lot of people know that a person has built a pretty solid brand, literally attacking you for the last 3 years. But no, they don't want to engage with you. Okay, you know what? Damn the politics, damn the theatrics. How about let's go get to work?
Yeah. So, and here we are, the Jimmy Dore Show, getting to work, as we always have. And everybody's about 6 months behind us, as they always are. It's fantastic. And, here we are with another solution. Our first solution was direct action. Our second solution was ranked choice voting. We got a strike page up at the Jimmy Dore Show now for since this whole thing started. And so now
the general strike, yeah.
So now we have another great idea. This hashtag Force the Vote, which just reveals that the progressives who are elected aren't strategizing at all, Niko, because I had to come up with this strategy. And then she goes, we're negotiating, like AOC said, we're negotiating behind the scenes for committee appointments. She just got fucking her committee appointment taken away. What kind of bullshit negotiation are you doing? It's all bullshit.
Oh, I heard it was by a person who didn't even vote for Nancy Pelosi last time, refused to vote for her.
Kathleen Rice got that seat. And the reason why Kathleen Rice got that seat, Niko, was because Kathleen Rice told Nancy Pelosi, I'm not fucking voting for you as Speaker. And so she gave her that seat and fucked over AOC because she knows AOC is going to vote for her. And watch, she's gonna. Just like Bernie Sanders is going to vote for Neera Tanden, AOC is going to vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker. Fucking watch.
What's funny about your plan? I keep telling you about y'all are mad at Jimmy. But do y'all realize that unless we didn't know that you were going to vote for Nancy Pelosi, like everyone knows you were already planning on voting for Nancy Pelosi. That's the only reason Jimmy's plan even works. Because y'all had already known, and Jimmy knew, and we knew. Y'all didn't tell anybody, but everybody knew. And then, of course, whenever you're like, okay, hold your vote, and everybody freaks out, like, oh, so y'all were already the leftists in Congress. The Progressive Caucus, which is made up of 90-plus people, were already planning on giving their vote to a woman who, in a victory year for the Democrats, lost seats in the House.
Under Trump.
Under Trump.
Under Trump.
It's crazy. Like, it's like if y'all were principled, Jimmy's plan wouldn't even work to begin with. Wouldn't even be a discussion because y'all wouldn't be voting for her anyway.
Yeah.
So just the fact that you're unprincipled is the only reason that this lane has been able to be created. And I want to also bring up the fact that, like, so I don't know if you heard, but there's a young man who actually is holding an event on the 2nd through the 4th in D.C. for Force to Vote.
No kidding. I didn't hear about this. Who is it?
Yeah. Steph read a super chat about it. And then Convo covered it yesterday. Fiorella talked about it. It's actually at the same time that the Assange crew is holding an event because the Assange hearing reading is coming out on the 3rd and the 4th. So they're going to be up there at the same time. So you have all these people doing action. Right, and you've always talked about Assange. You've always talked about Medicare for all, and then you're always the first time I met you was in person, right? Like I was in person. We were at a rally in Philadelphia when you were still with TYT, and I'm like, man, this dude Jim, he's really out here. Like, and then every event I went to after that for activism shit, you and Steph were there, and yet I don't hear anyone talking about the action. Everybody wants to talk about you on camera talking to the camera, but no one wants to give you credit for, you know what, even if they don't like the action, shit, at least he's doing something.
Dude, I'm the only one who actually went in this. I'm one of the few YouTube hosts who actually goes out in that field and reports on shit. When Bernie ran for office, I covered his campaign up and down California, all over the place, San Jose, San Francisco, Oakland, Riverside, Los Angeles, Pasadena, everywhere. I was at every one of it, Anaheim. I was at every one of his fucking campaign stops. So I know what it's like to cover a campaign. I went to Las Vegas and I covered their caucus, and I exposed the fucking cheating that was going on. At that time, the mainstream news media wasn't blocking me, and Rolling Stone magazine actually repeated my reporting, so they covered it. Right? So like, oh, this Jimmy Dore did this. Yeah. So I was able. So I've done. This idea that it's hard to do reporting. Just fucking show up and stick your head down the street and tell you what's going on. That's what fucking reporting is. That's all it is.
You can't make $20 million like Rachel Maddow doing that, Jimmy. You need to make it up as you go. Okay.
That's right. What's interesting to me too is that the people who are against forced to vote never had a fucking original idea in their head. They go, well, what happens then after you pass it in the House? What then? I don't know. So you still want someone else to come up with another idea for you? I'll come up with it.
But that's what it sounds like, right? And they didn't answer this question, right? So everybody remembers impeachment. Remember how they didn't have the votes?
Yes, they knew.
Remember? They kept talking about it. We know we don't have the votes, but it's the principle.
Nice.
And even one young congresswoman, one young firebrand, attacked another young firebrand for saying this actually is going to hurt the Democrats, so maybe we shouldn't play political games and instead focus on these things that Trump has actually done wrong instead. And that young firebrand decided to take that opportunity to attack the other congressperson. And she knew they didn't have the vote, so it wasn't going to pass anyway. But that firebrand didn't really care about that back then, did she?
No, not at all.
Interesting. What's changed, Jimmy? What do you think's changed?
Hey, I think we got to keep the Democratic Party changes you. You don't change the Democratic Party. That's what we're learning, and that's what's being revealed right now, isn't it, Niko? That's what's being revealed. So this is going to be a win-win no matter how you look at it. Either we get a vote for Medicare for all, and then the squad and the progressives who force that become even more popular and get even more power and scare the shit out of Nancy Pelosi, and they can actually wield this power again when it comes to getting a UBI or a direct cash payment, or the next time they want to shut the government down, they have this power again, and they can extract shit for their vote, or they vote for Nancy Pelosi and it's revealed that it is a fool's errand for voting for progressives inside the Democratic Party, and it's time to start on a serious third party, as Dr. Richard Wolff has urged on my show and his show and everywhere else. It's time for a third party. Dr. Cornel West is on board. Dr. Cornel, we got a bunch of Marion Wilson, Dr. Cornel West. We got
even Nina, even though she's running as a Dem right now because Ohio blocks third parties, she supports third parties.
Yeah, Nina supports it. So it's all good. Everything's happening right, and the people who are against me smeared Julian Assange. Just keep that in mind. The people who are against this repeat CIA talking points about Syria and Venezuela on the regular and smear Julian Assange. That's a fact.
They're still doing it right now. Like right now.
Still smeared Julian Assange at the top of her lungs. That's the opposite of a journalist. She had to be encouraged by a fucking viewer to cover Julian Assange. She goes, oh,
God the glory.
Yeah.
God the glory. Super chat. She'll take a super chat.
That's right. So that's in between her taking NATO money to give tongue baths to war criminals. She said she didn't take NATO money for that. Really? You mean you did that for fucking free?
Not tongue baths. I didn't know about the NATO money thing. I never knew about that until I think Max Blumenthal covered it.
She didn't take the NATO money. I'm like, really? You did that for fucking free? That's worse.
Which is even worse.
One of those conferences, Niko, maybe you remember, I went to the Freedom Forum in Norway, Oslo, Norway. I don't know if you remember what happened there, but on their opening day, they had their opening press conference, and I stood in the middle of the fucking room, and I challenged them, and I had Gary Kasparov call me a Putin puppet because I was telling the truth about imperialism, and they didn't want to fucking hear it, because all those things are NATO-sponsored bullshit covers for imperialism and wars. That's what wars of aggression. That's all that is. And so when I went to one of those things, I blew it up. TYT didn't even want me to put that fucking video up on their website. That's a fact. I had to fight to get it up. They changed the title on it. I had to fight to get it put back. That's a fact.
You got taken down, actually. I remember the exact moment I covered it. Your show, when you were back doing Progressive, you did did his big debunking with, you covered Tucker Carlson and you covered, what's his name, the CIA stooge who's acting like a congressman.
Juan Guaido.
Huh?
Juan Guaido.
No, the congressman. The Democrat who's always like the first one to be wrong on everything. You know who I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, but I can't remember his name right now. Shit. You did Tucker Carlson shit, and you were debunking every Russiagate narrative back to back, and then your show was put behind a paywall. When everybody tried to go watch it, and I was like, okay, I don't remember aggressive being behind a paywall. And from that moment on, I was like, well, I know how this is going to go. And unfortunately, in my opinion, the Russiagate narrative began to kind of like spin out of control in a negative way because your show at that point was being put behind a paywall, and even though your channel was still building up, it's not what it is now. And so that kind of stuff is dangerous. Whenever we shut down legitimate debate and legitimate discussion about issues, and we hide things behind paywalls so that our people on our platform can't see, or we hide behind ad hominem attacks, it's detrimental not only to the progressive movement, but if you care about the people in this country, it's detrimental to them too. There's no way you can't know that this fight is a win-win-win for progressives in the entire country. There's no way, like just with this CARES Act, you can literally have Congress people and Democrats point at Republicans as Joe Manchin is literally working on crafting this bill. Working on it. He's a Democrat. I know people forget, but he's a Democrat. And yet, have we heard anything from the neo-progressives about Joe Manchin literally working with Democrats, and then the Democrats with Republicans on this bill, and then the Democrats pointing at Republicans like he's not one of the head speakers promoting this?
So the day after, almost a minute after Pelosi denied AOC her seat on that committee, she went out and tweeted against the Republicans. That's fucking crazy. That actually happened.
I remember.
Still doing that. She's going to be a good little soldier for Nancy Pelosi and the Democratic Party because this again, I'd rather them prove me wrong, Niko. I'd rather them prove me wrong, and I'm glad that the Young Turks let their audience weigh in, and their audience overwhelmingly are on board for this. Of course they are. What the fuck? This is the most obvious thing in the fucking world. You got to bend yourself into a fucking pretzel to figure out a way, and then straw man it to figure out a way to disagree with this? Yes. So I'm so glad. So I thank Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian for letting their audience weigh in, so their audience can tell them overwhelmingly that This is what a progressive should be fucking doing.
So Jimmy, you have about what? You're almost at 900,000 subscribers, right?
Yeah, around. So there's two algorithms. There's algorithms for you and for me.
Yeah.
And right. There's that's you, me, Kyle Kalinske. And everybody, there's one algorithm for us. There's another algorithm for corporate news. Right? Mm-hmm. So
you know what the CPM is? I know what the CPM is. Wall Street Journal CPM is like $90.
So they don't get. We get our YouTube which is Google wants to suppress independent news, right? Because it causes them headaches with advertisers. So it's just that simple. And so they don't want to have any more headaches from advertisers, which is why they're pushing mainstream news now on YouTube. Who the fuck goes to YouTube to watch mainstream fucking news. So, but they have to be pushed on it, right? So the algorithm favors them, and then what it does is it takes subscribers away from people like you and me. Every day they say they're dormant accounts. My executive producer got unsubscribed from my show last year, just to let you know how bullshit that is. So
I've been unsubscribed from my own show before.
Yeah, so we're probably at least double what they show. So if you have an MSNBC contract, or if your show's on the Comcast network or the NBC Comcast platform, you're on the corporate algorithm. That's why your show grows, even though nobody fucking watches it. But people watch every one of my videos gets over 100,000 views. But somehow I'm still behind people who nobody watches their shows. Nobody watches their fucking shows.
Oh yeah, well there's definitely some astroturfing. So everybody talks about like the astroturfing on Twitter and Facebook, which is true. Like I mean, what's his name? David Brock made it very clear that we engage in online warfare, but like there's astroturfing on YouTube as well. And actually, while I was in California at Tulsi Gabbard's event, I had a YouTuber who's like assigned to my channel, yours, Convo, and a couple of others who actually told me that they were going to flip the algorithm on its head because we were crushing. And, like, we were crushing mainstream media in the beginning of the election. We were like calling out Kamala, and independent media is as much as Tulsi Gabbard is responsible for crushing her career. Independent media is also responsible for bringing that about and opening that lane, because we were unafraid to tell the truth when no one else on stage would like talk about the obvious problems with Kamala. And so somebody told me that they were about to flip the algorithm on its head because of that. And literally, I mean, you go from what? It used to be 70% of views were suggested and 30% were from your subscribers. It's the opposite now. And people don't know that. But my point was is that you have 800,000 subscribers. AOC has 10 million on Twitter, a congressional seat. She's at the mainstream media is at her every whim. And I would consider that to be a mandate. You know, that's the strongest thing a progressive can have in Congress. You know, what the hell is the point of having a mandate if, like, at this very moment, in the middle of a pandemic, when you have the election's over, you got it. Why have a mandate if you're not going to fight at this very moment?
There is no point. You're exactly right. That it's just what's the point? As Norman Solomon said, after the entire squad voted for the extension of the Patriot Act to extend Donald Trump's fucking spying powers, as they were calling him a Russian puppet, they gave him spying powers on American citizens, which reveals them to be bullshit propagandists. And Norman Solomon wrote in Salon magazine, he said, what is the point of voting for progressives if they're just going to vote with the surveillance state anyway? Well, the answer, Norman, is there isn't a point. And what is the point for voting for progressives if they're going to vote for the largest upward transfer of wealth in history in the middle of a fucking crisis? There is no point. And what's the point of voting for them if they're not going to use the actual leverage they have to get us Medicare for all, the last country in the world that doesn't fucking have it in the middle of a deadly pandemic? And if they're not willing to risk everything to do that right now, there is no point to vote for them.
Yeah.
And they're revealing it. I'm not revealing it. I set up the framework for them to either prove that it was worth voting for them or it wasn't. And they are fucking making it sure that everybody knows they aren't going to do a fucking thing and you ain't getting health care, so go suck it.
Yeah, and the excuses are what killed me. Somebody tweeted out, it's hilarious, that, man, it looks like AOC is using excuses to decorate her Christmas tree this year. Because, like, they have been free for the last few days to the point where, once again, and I found this part the most amazing, she refuses to actually mention you, but is constantly trying to debunk, quote unquote, your arguments and make excuses as to why she can't support the thing that you started. And now I understand, like, there might be some beef or whatever. And actually, no, she's been giving marching orders. One of my friends has a consultant in D.C., and they've all been giving marching orders. So they all watch you. I know for a fact they watch you because I've been told this by a D.C. consultant. But they also have marching orders not to go on your show.
Yeah, so, they all do. They all do.
Yeah, that's why I got my problems with Rokana, but I will give him respect in that he will go on your show and let you challenge him directly, even if we don't always like what he has to say.
Rokana is his own man. He doesn't take fucking orders. So when he does something wrong, it's all him. And when he
and there's that too, right?
It's all him, right? And he's got the balls to come on my show and face the music. He's the only person who voted for that CARES Act who came on my show to face the music. And he faced the music. And we both had a chuckle about how the only person who's going to hold their feet to the fire about the CARES Act is a comedian in his fucking garage. And he knew it. he's not. Chris Hayes isn't upset about the CARES Act. Rachel Maddow, Jake Tapper, nobody's upset about the CARES Act because nobody knows what was in it. Because the oligarchs who engineered the CARES Act, that $5 trillion upward, it came to them, and they own Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and Jake Tapper. That's why. Just read manufacturing consent. That's why this isn't being talked about on Chris Hayes. That's why it's not being printed in the New York Times. That's why they never talked about the CARES Act. That's why there's food lines that's not being covered. That's why this isn't happening in other countries, Niko. Every other country pays their employees when they make them business shut down, and they give them health care. This isn't happening anywhere else.
Yeah, I know it. But the point I wanted to make is that there's supposed to be, in my opinion, a mutual respect. If we have the same goals like they claim, I don't have a problem mentioning someone's name that I disagree with, because I'm hoping that we can engage in good faith at some point and get down to the bottom of this and figure out what the best solution is. But in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, AOC is not engaging in good faith. In fact, she's engaging in bad faith because she's purposely trying to erase the person who started the discussion that she is now going on the news and getting interviews to engage in, which means it is a legitimate discussion. Obviously, you were trending number one. It is something that is widely discussed, and yet you don't want, my opinion is what it is, you don't want anyone else to hear his side. And you don't want anybody to figure out who you are and that you may be engaging in bad faith. And in my opinion, the moment that you erase somebody that you're literally debating against, that means you don't want people to figure out the truth about you and your intentions. What would you say to that?
I would say you're 100% right, and that is very perceptive of you, and that is out in and open for everybody to see. And when AOC stepped in it with Justin Jackson, she revealed herself. She stepped in it, and now she's got it on her shoe, and she can't get it off. And that's what's happening right now. Everybody smells the shit that's coming, and that she stepped in it. She lied. You know, her first lie was that we won't be able to get the $15 minimum wage fight. We have to pick and choose, which is always a neoliberal tactic, making progressives choose between progressive policies and prioritize one over the other. So she did that first, and then when it was pointed out to her that Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden are already on board for a $15 minimum wage, and in fact, it already passed the House last year, she fucking stopped using that as a... So you know her first excuse was complete bullshit, which means everything she says after that is bullshit, or else why would she hide the real reason and start with bullshit, which was 100% bullshit, because that's all they got. And it hurts people's feelings, Niko. It hurt people's feelings when I told them that Bernie Sanders sold them out with the CARES Act. It hurts their feelings. It hurts their feelings. They're like, what do you want him to do? He was supposed to put a hold on that bill for at least a week, which every senator could do like that, and raise everybody of what was supposed to happen. This is called disaster capitalism. This is the shock doctrine, and it played out right in front of our eyes. And so when I told everybody that Bernie knew it was happening and he let it happen, and in fact he gave a grandstanding speech, he didn't get that unemployment in the bill. He didn't get that. That came from Michael Bennet. It was already in the bill and agreed to pass, and Bernie gave a grandstanding speech. So when I had to break that news to people, it hurt their feelings, and a lot of people got pissed off. But right now, I'm exposing fucking AOC, and in this country is like a bunch of adult children of alcoholics. They don't get mad at the person who's fucking them. They get mad at the person who's showing them that someone's fucking them. And that's me. I'm showing them you're being fucked by people with power, and they're getting mad at me.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And it's unfortunate, and I feel like it's heartbreaking from the perspective of a lot of people put a lot of faith in AOC. They put money and time into AOC and a lot of hope and good faith into her. And now that they're seeing it unmasked, it makes it all the more difficult for actual good faith actors who are trying to do the right thing to get out and get things done, and of course get that support that you need to get these movements accomplished. And she's just running away with it. Somebody showed me the other day. I couldn't believe it. I should have known as soon as she signed the CAA what time it was. But her speaking fees are $50,000 to $150,000 a speech.
75 to 150,000.
Oh, it's the same as Nancy Pelosi.
She signed with CAA? AOC?
Yeah, a while ago, about 4 or 5 months ago.
And by the way, when you watch television, Jake Tapper, Fredo Cuomo, Anderson Cooper, Chris Hayes, Lawrence O'Donnell, Rachel Maddow, they all
Kamala Harris,
CAA.
Charlemagne the God. The list is crazy.
Look who their agents are, and that's why they can freeze out a story like this. CAA is more powerful than you even know.
Alyssa Milano, bro. Oh yeah, you know Robbie from MCSC broke that story. Amazing. I mean, it's a groundbreaking story, and I want to do an expose because people have no idea how much CAA